In the Michigan primary, is that proof? It really is the economy. Our Fox panel is back now to talk about. I didn't want to say stupid at the end of that topic because I knew I was going to come to you first. But is the economy clearly? Iraq is gone because the surge appears to be working militarily. So that's disappeared. That's why McCain is surge. So it's all down to the economy.
Yeah, and like let's look at Michigan for a second. Here is a state that's the old-fashioned Democrats, where it's taxes spend, soak the rich. Your unions are out there to kill the company, and you know what they did? They killed the companies. They all went somewhere else. Rich people left Michigan. They have one of the highest tax rates. Look, if you're in Michigan, listen very carefully. Vote for Democrats. You might as well stick a knife right in your own heart. You're a fool. You're an idiot. Why? Because Democrats are out there raising taxes on you. And look, this is a good example. The #1 cost of a car manufacturer in the United States isn't union wages. It's union benefits, especially the jobs bank. We pay people to sit on their butt who used to work and don't need them anymore. They sit at home. They pay them almost the same thing they get if they were working. It's nuts.
Terry, could you be a little more blunt for us?
I'm sorry, Tom. The reason the U.S. automakers are in so much trouble is a failure of imagination. Japan is not a low-cost producer. They are eating our lunch. In the emerging markets, Tata Motors is eating our lunch. They're coming out with cheap cars for $2,500. You mean someone at General Motors, the 40,000 people they have sitting in the corner offices, couldn't come up with an idea like that?
You're not wrong, but they work together. But what happens is if you take that money that you could be putting into R&D and creating new and better cars, and you pay some guy to sit on his butt at home and watch TV, you're not going to make a new car.
Steve Jobs could make a great car.
Although, Victoria, I got to say, not many Americans would buy a car without air conditioning and a radio and everything. That does go with the Tata cars. It's a very stripped-down model. Yeah, yeah. It's sort of designed for people that are coming out of pretty much what we would call abject poverty into the lower middle class.
Right, right. You know, Michigan's problems are a lack of imagination, certainly, huge union woes. And that's not something that Romney can fix. You know, he was a consultant and probably did a great job at telling companies how to streamline their operations, which usually translates to lost jobs. Yeah. So I'm afraid that Michigan, what's going on there right now, really shows the two-faced sides of the Republican candidates.
Although Peter, we should say that his father was governor of the state of Michigan, so he's got a familial connection to the state.
But there's nothing he can do. He can't help the economy there. He can't. There's nothing that he could do. He's just demagoguing. But yes, the economy is going to be the issue in the election, and unfortunately it's going to work against the Republicans because there's going to be a lot of unemployed people come November who have no equity in their homes or negative equity, that can't afford food, they can't afford energy, that are struggling in probably the worst economy we've had, in our lifetimes. Yeah, they're not going to want to vote back the Republicans.
By the way, Peter, we should let people know that the reason you think the only person who doesn't demagogue is I was going to say Ross Perot, is Ron Paul, is because you're for Ron Paul.
Sure, but I mean, electing Ron Paul, even if we could pull off a miracle like that, it's not going to put off our day of reckoning. We have a serious problem to deal with for years of borrowing to consume. We've bankrupted our nation. It's going to take a long time to rebuild a viable economy.
Johan,
to really start
ahead.
producing again and exporting and making stuff. But, we can't do it without a huge recession, and it's coming. But unfortunately, the voters are going to blame the incumbents, and I'm afraid the Democratic Party will make things worse.
I don't completely agree with that. I think that we need to take this recession seriously. If it is a recession, it could just be a slowdown. However, we have gotten ourselves into a little bit of a trouble. We have borrowed too much money. But right now, the last thing we need is to Washington to get more involved. We need to resolve this ourselves. The economy and the companies and the stock market will take care of this. It's going to be a little painful for a while, but eventually it will come back.
Well, Peter, I agree with Peter. The rate things are going, Barack Obama is going to be promising bars of gold to voters by November. The only hope for the Republicans is that the last two times that we've been in or coming out of a recession on Election Day, a third-party candidate has captured a big chunk of the vote. That was John Anderson in 1980 and Ross Perot in 1992. So that could be salvation for John McCain or whomever the candidate is.
I'll tell you what the salvation for the Republicans is going to be. Is the fact that most people hate Hillary Clinton. Now, I'm not saying that to be funny. We're saying that to be true because
Hillary Clinton may not be the nominee.
She may not. But here, Barack Obama is just so naive, and he's really. And I don't think race will be a big issue with Barack Obama. I think he's just a very naive man with bad ideas. But I think if you look at every election since television came into being, typically people vote for the guy they like the most.
Not not when they're in a deep recession.
Oh, recession, no recession, the guy they like the most almost always wins.
All right. By the way,
They
Victoria.
voted for Jimmy Carter over Gerald Ford.
True,
He's a pretty
but
likable
Victoria,
guy.
He's stuck.
there is a big minority that hates Hillary Clinton, but most people don't hate Hillary Clinton. Most people
52%.
are not obsessed by her.
52%.
No.
And I think voters are warming up to Hillary. You know, she's kind of, I'm sure she's worked on this, and it seems to be working. We saw what happened in New Hampshire, so I don't count her out of this race at all. But people do vote with their hearts, and I think Huckabee's rise and his great performance in Iowa shows that.
Speaking of great
Unfortunately, the
performances,
Republicans are going to get blamed for the mess, right or wrong.
Peter.
The free market's going to get blamed for the mess, and the governments embracing socialism and bigger government are going to be the Santa Claus and appease to the voters, and they're going to get the votes. And unfortunately, they're going to make everything worse once they come into power. But that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, I'm afraid Peter might be right, and you know, Bush is going to go out bookend by 2 recessions. One of them
true.
perhaps not of his making, but you know, he's going to go out as
Well,
the
actually,
guy.
the recession was over when he became president, right? According to some statistics.
It depends.
Yeah.
Well, the
we were
reason that
we were already into it.
The reason this recession is going to be so bad is because the first one was so shallow. We postponed the pain to re-elect George Bush, and now we're going to have to live with it. And this, as I said, is going to be the worst recession
if there is one, you
we've
may
ever
be right,
experienced.
Peter, because everybody agrees that those rates were kept down a little too long. Well, tough earnings.
But I was criticizing it as he was doing it. I didn't wait till after the fact.
As you always are, 100% right. Peter, we got to move on. A tough earnings call for Citi. How did things get so bad? We're going to take a look next on Fox Business.